Hello and thank you for coming to my channel. This is Rick's Garage and today we're going to continue on with the build of the Honda VFR750R from Tamiya, starting at step 6. Now if you didn't see my video of steps 1 through 5, I will put a link in the descriptions below, but today we're going to start on step 6, so let's get started. Okay, before we move on to step 6, I wanted to show that I did add a metal disc brake here to this part, and this is the plastic counterpart. And I think you can agree that a metal part or a Photoetch part looks a lot better than the plastic. And this metal part here, this came from the detail upset that I'm using. And this is it right here. Zoom out a little bit so you can see it. And this is the Photoetch part that I'm using. I will put a link in the descriptions on where I got this. I got it at Hiroboy, but I'll put a link directly to this particular detail upset. Okay, so moving on to step 6, what we're going to do is we're going to take our assembly that we've been working on right here. Then we're going to take our brake or chain assembly looking like this way around, and we're going to insert this right into the cavity that you see right there. And we're going to align this hole up with that hole right there, and then we're going to insert a plastic bar that goes all the way through that's going to attach this onto our frame. And then this right here, our spring assembly, this shock assembly, you'll see that there is a kind of like a notch right there. That notch is going to fit into or on top of that bar right there, so it's going to like clip right in. And then these two pieces right down, these two lugs right here, this area right here is going to fit into these two lug holes right here. So let me get those all in, come back, show you what that looks like. Okay, so there's our chain assembly attached to the frame, and it is a little bit simpler than it appears, though you do have quite a few connection points you have to pay attention to. You line up the hole here using that pin that I showed you before in the instructions, and that's going to go all the way through here, through this part right here, as you can see, and it's going to end up right there. So that pin goes all the way through from here, and it reaches all the way to back here. At the same time, you need to align your spring detail here, which is going to clamp onto that little bar that I showed you earlier, right there. And then these 2 points right down here, they also snap into place. These are not glued in. Those are actually very tightly snapped in. And then finally what we need to do is we need to take the hose that's coming from this part right here, and there's a little tiny lug on our spring assembly right back here that hose needs to go on, and I would recommend that you glue that hose in place because that's a very short lug. And that's what that looks like with that hose attached. The hose comes from here, goes all the way down, and attaches to the spring assembly right there. And again, it is a very tiny lug, so I do recommend that you glue that in so it doesn't fall out later on. But that is our chain assembly attached to our frame. Okay, so I have taken this stock part here looking like this, and I created a Photoetch part, which took me a little over 2 hours to do. It's very, very tedious work. But once you get it done, it looks really, really good. So I am going to put this on the bike, but I'm going to let the glue dry for a moment, and I'm going to show you how to put this part on. Okay, so there is a lug. Take this up. There's a lug here and a hole back here, which is going to match up to the hole back here for the lug, and this little lug right here for the hole in the back. So this is essentially going to go on kind of sort of like that. So I'm going to get that on, come back and show you what that looks like. Okay, and that's how that looks once that is in, and that is the Photoetch part, looking like that. Okay, now next we need to get this piece in, and there are 2 lugs at the bottom, here and here. And they're going to go into the 2 lug holes on the back of the bike or back of the frame here and right there. So let's get that on. And that's how that looks once that's in. And that completes step 6. Okay, in step 7 we start to work on our exhaust system, and I like the fact that this is all done in one piece. And all you got to do really to complete this section is just to marry those two pieces up like this, and that's all you need to do there. This is a little fiddly to do, but what you're going to do is you're going to take this piece looking like this, and this looking like this with these two holes facing out. And what you're going to do is you're going to marry these two up with this lug right here going into this hole here, and this assembly right there, this lug assembly right here, going into this hole right here. So this is going to go on like this. They just kind of like cross each other there at the top, and those two pieces then will then go together like that. Okay, I'm going to continue to sand these down, get this all glued in, and then painted to the colors that they are asking for. Come back and finish the assembly. Okay, here's the exhaust system, painted and assembled in the colors that it's asking for in the instructions. Got that there, and this one here, and we have this little heat shield with the lug already attached to this part of the exhaust system. What we're going to need to do, I'm going to put this over here for a moment because we don't need it right now. We need our frame assembly that we've been working on. And we need to put this into our frame, and that's going to be a little tricky. So in the frame, way in the back area of the frame, there is some lugs here, or not lugs, but lug holes. I don't know if the camera can see it, but way, way, way back deep in there, there is a hole there I think you can see, and then one right next to it on the other side. And that's where these two lugs are going to end up, or supposed to end up anyway. So the way that you need to do this is that you need to hold your exhaust pipes this way around, and then come in at this angle, and then twist it this way, push it in, and then, or move it in, and then turn it around that way around, and then with your magnifying glass on, because you're going to need your magnifying glasses, guide those lugs into the hole. So I'm going to try to attempt that, come back, and hopefully show you what that's going to look like. Okay, that's how that looks when it's in. It is a very difficult piece to put in, extremely difficult, because you really can't see what you're doing. With all the flashlights that I had on that, I still couldn't really see those lugs from the exhaust pipes going into the holes of the engine. So it's very, very difficult. Even with a magnifying headset on and a light, I had a hard time trying to get that in. But I think that's in correctly. Okay, now next, what we need to do is we need to take this piece here, and with your frame this way around, we're going to connect this lug here to that hole there. We're going to secure that in with a screw, with a 1.2 by 4 screw. And then this lug here is going to end up in this hole of the engine back here. So this is going to be a really fiddly piece as well to put in. So let me try to get that on, come back, and show you what that looks like. Okay, that was not fun. I can tell you that right now. This is these two pieces that we did. This one back here that we did first, that goes into the engine, was extremely difficult. And when you put that in, you complete step 8. And then over here, when we put the muffler in, this is starting on step 9. I forgot to mention that earlier. And putting this in was a very tight fit to get it over into this hole over here in the engine. And it's just very, very difficult to put on. You have too many other points here. I think the main problem that I had was, or is that this piece right here just did not go in at the right angle or at the right position. And it's extremely difficult to tell if it is or isn't, because you really can't see what you're doing down there in those lugs or those holes back there where this muffler needs to go, or the tailpipe needs to go into the engine. So it's extremely difficult to do, I think, for these two steps so far. But we still have one more piece of the puzzle for the exhaust system, and that's going to be another pipe that goes from here, and it's going to attach right to this hole right here. So that piece is in step 9. That would complete step 9, and I still need to get this painted. I've already got a primer coat on it. It is in the booth right now drying, and then I will then paint this up in the same color that we did this, and then that will complete step 9. Then it can move on to step 10 and maybe hopefully relax a little bit, because that was very difficult, but I got it in. So I'm patting myself on the back for that. Okay, so this is our last pipe for the exhaust. I'll paint it up. And the way this is going to go in is that this lug right here that you see is going to go into that hole right here. And then this lug right here on the other end of the pipe is going to go into that hole right there in the engine. So this is going to go on kind of sort of like this. Whoop, run this way. Going to go on there like so, and that's going to go on just like that. Okay, once that piece is in, looking like that. Okay, now finally what we need to do is we need to get our spark plug leads in, and they are right back here on the frame. Is a part that we put in on step 1, and then they just go into this area right here, and then they connect to these two spark plug leads right here. And then finally we have a decal to put on right there. That then completes step 9. Okay, in step 10 we start off with this assembly here, and it's pretty simple. The pieces here are already painted in the colors that it's called for in the instructions, and the only thing that you need to be aware of in assembling this is that you want to make sure that this fits correctly onto this. So what you want to do is go ahead and do a dry fit, and if this does not fit snug to the bottom of this piece here, then you got it on the wrong way. But that is fitting nice and tight, and so I'm going to go ahead and glue that in. And when you have that in the right orientation, that's how that should look. Now on the back here, or on the top, we have these half moon shape lug holes, which are going to match up to the half moon shape on these pieces right here, so they can only go in one way. Okay, and that's how that piece looks once those little tiny bits are in. And the glue is still drying on that, so I'm going to put that aside for the glue to dry. And the only other thing that we need to do in step 10 is put the rim into the wheel, but you need to pay attention to how the rim is going to go into the wheel, and that is by an arrow that you see on the back side of this tire. Now I don't know if you can see it or not, but there is an arrow right here, and you need to make sure that the rim is going in the right direction. So on this side, the arrow is pointing in this direction, so that means that we needed to put our wheel on like that. Okay, so next we're going to be working on our radiator, which is right here. I've already got it painted up in the colors that it's asking for. And we're going to add some Photoetch parts to this, looking like this. And another one that looks like this. So I think what this is going to do is you take this part here, this Photoetch part looking like this, and then you're going to then superimpose that on top to make a grate look like that. So let me go ahead and get these in, come back and show what that looks like. Okay, so this is our radiator with our Photoetch parts on. That's how it looks on the front and there on the back. And what we need to do is we need to take these fans, radiator fans looking like this, and on the back here there's a locating lug or a half moon shape that's going to dictate how these fans are going to go in. So you'll notice that there is a notch here and there's a notch here. So these fans are going to go in a specific way, and they're going to go in just like that. Okay, so with our radiator looking like this, and then this part that we have created here, and the back like that, and our wheel looking like that, completes step 10. Okay, so now on step 11 we have quite a few parts that we have to assemble, or not assemble really, but get onto the frame here. We have the back wheel frame right here that needs to go on, or the fender. This is currently in the dry booth right now. We need to get this pipe in right here. We need to get the spark plug leads attached to this part here and onto the frame. Then we need to get our radiator in and the two hoses for the radiator, and then we need to get this part in. So the first thing that I'm going to tackle is this part right here, which is going to go onto the frame, and it's going to attach these spark plug leads. Okay, so zooming in onto the frame, right here is a lug that is going to attach this part right here. And it has a hole on this side, a lug hole, and then a flat on this side. This hole right here is going to match up to that lug that's on the frame. Now the first thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to attach the hoses onto this piece first, and then fix this onto the bike. Okay, and there's that piece in, looking like that. Now this piece here, next, is going to go into this area here, and there's 4 lug holes. 2 in the bottom, 2 here on the side. They're going to line up with these lugs right here, and here at the very bottom. So where this is going to go in first is that this lip right here is going to go underneath this area here. So this is going to go in like an angle. And then you're going to drop it in, and going to line those lugs up to the holes like that. So let me get that in. Okay, here's that piece in, looking just like that. And it is a little bit of a difficult piece to put in, not because of the lug holes up here, because you can see those fairly easy. It's aligning the lug holes here at the very bottom. And it's way down there inside the engine, and it's very difficult to see whether or not you're lining those up properly. But they really should actually line up on their own. It's maybe a little bit of an extra push to get those actually seated in properly, but that's how that should actually look once that's in. Okay, now we have another hose that we need to put in, and that's on the other side here. It's located on this side of the bike, and it's this hose right here that we put in onto the brake right here. Now the instructions really don't tell you at all how to wire this hose and how to feed it through. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to take the hose and I'm going to feed it between the muffler and the frame. Then I'm going to then just take the hose this way. See if I get my tweezers out. And then it's going to come out this way around like that through the bike frame and then into the lug right over here. So let me get that in. Okay, and there's that line in right there, as you can see. And again, that goes from that lug there round through the frame like that. And then I've got it going between the muffler and the bike frame, and it comes right over here to where this brake line is right there. Okay, next we need to get our radiator in, and the way this is going to go in is pretty simple. You have these 2 lugs right here. We're going to go into these 2 slots on the frame on both sides, here and here. Then it's going to swing down, and this lug right here is going to meet up with this lug hole right down there, right between the muffler pipe. So this is going to go in like this, and then swing down, and then connect right there at the very bottom. So let me get that in. Okay, there's our radiator in, looking just like that. And next we need to get our hoses in. Now these are the thick hoses that we installed earlier. I'm going to kind of zoom in a little bit. And right back down in here, underneath or inside the frame or the engine down there, we have this thick hose that's going to go onto this lug right here. Now I may actually trim that hose down just a little bit because I think it's a little bit too long, but I'm going to go ahead and get that in. Okay, the instructions are not totally clear on exactly how that should go in. I've got mine looped from inside onto that lug for the radiator. I might later on actually tuck this hose underneath the frame there, which is why I did not glue the end of this hose onto the radiator, because I may want to move that later in preparation of putting the front cowl on. But that's how mine looks right now. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, and that is that long hose right there into the radiator. Pretty simple and straightforward, and I didn't need to do any trimming on that at all. So that just went in very simple. Okay, next we're going to take our wheel cover, looking like this, and there is a lug or locating lug down here, and one right back here. It's like a little kind of a notch. And those notches are going to line up with the lugs that are inside the frame right about here. Okay, one right there and one on the other side. Okay, now then these two lugs right here are going to go into those slots right here at the back. So let me go ahead and get that in. Okay, and then that just basically snapped right into place. So it was pretty simple to put in. Looking just like that. Okay, next we want to put in our wheel. So we have a nut here, or a plastic nut. We have a little bit of a wrench right here. And then we have this little this little metal nut that we need to screw on to secure our tire. So essentially how this is going to work is that you take your frame looking like this, and I'll zoom in just a little bit. And we take our wheel, put our wheel on just like that, and then we get our nut out. Actually, we get this nut out first. Put that in to the center like that. And then we screw our nut in like that, and then we take our plastic wrench and we secure that in. And that wrench works pretty well actually. Just moving it along, not too tight. I'm not trying to force it, but I'm going to go ahead and screw that in so it's nice and secure. Okay, and then that's our wheel on, and you don't want it too tight because you want the wheel to move, but it shouldn't be loose to the point where it's going to wobble. So I kind of like it right about there, but it's not like I'm going to be playing with it anyway. And that, once the wheel is on, completes step 11. Okay, so that is our build at the end of step 11, and I was really surprised about this plastic wrench. I didn't think it was really going to work, but it did a really good job on tightening that bolt down. Typically what I found on motorcycle builds is that we use Phillips head screws, and then on the wheels we just cover up the screws with some sort of a detail part. But this worked out pretty well, and I like the way that nut looks against the wheel there, along with that plastic detail part. So that turned out really, really well. Very pleasantly surprised about this wrench. Didn't think it was going to work. But anyway, that is our build at the end of step 11, and on the next video that will come out, we'll start off on step 12 and probably go all the way to the very end of the build to complete this model. Now, I really hope you liked this video and that you found it both entertaining and informative, and that you'll give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed, please remember to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon so you can be notified on new videos that have been posted. Other than that, always have fun in your garage, your workshop, or wherever it is you build your models. And until next time, thanks for watching.